Yeah, it feels like I'm getting smarter just being around all these books.
How much do you read?
I try to read every day. Yeah, I try to read every day for hour and a half. You know, besides like the knowledge that I gain, whether it's perspective or whatever it is, it's also very therapeutic. Being able to get stuck in a book for an hour and a half, whatever it is. On the plane, I read. At home, I read after training. At the pool, at the beach, whatever it is when I'm traveling. Always just try to have a book with me.
Thank you very much,
No,
sir.
you're welcome.
Here, welcome to Toronto Reference Library, sir.
Right here.
Yes, sir.
All right. There you go.
Can I take a picture with you?
Sure, of course. You guys treated me so well, so.
Yes. Smile. Thank you very much.
No, thank you guys. I like to think myself, and I've been described sort of somewhat of like intellectual. Really curious about the world, really curious why things are, why they are. So it's led me, I think, to books. Yeah, I quite like reading books. I think fans, if they've seen sort of my social media, I have like a book section. So every time I read a book, I'll post a book, next read. It's getting quite long now, but I'm challenging myself this year to read a little bit more. I read quite a bit, but just more and more. Yeah, so that's another sort of thing that I'm super interested about. Looks like we're going to check out the Toronto Public Library. Yeah, I haven't gone to the library in a really long time. I used to go when I was younger. My dad used to take my sister and I on Saturday mornings. At the time, I wasn't even a big reader myself. I used to just go to check out movies or magazines, stuff like that. So yeah, really excited. I would say in college, when I started taking English classes, the books that I was assigned were always really great. And that's how I was able to start doing it on a more regular basis. This book wasn't assigned to me. It was in the house. I don't know whose book it was, but it was in the house. And I was like, okay, I think it would probably be wise to, I guess, read about the current president. And someone that I look up to, obviously, just, you know, where he comes from and what he's been able to accomplish in his life. Just him going back all the way to when he was a young boy growing up in Hawaii, a young boy with his mom in Cambodia. Just so interesting, and his time spent in Africa when he went back, his time, you know, applying for colleges and going to really prestigious schools, and just being a young black man in Chicago as well. Like it was really interesting. It's one of my favorite books, really probably top 3 favorite books.
So what are you reading right now?
I'm reading 3 books right now. Funny enough, I'm reading Will Smith's memoir, and that's been really good. Similar to the Obama book, that goes back to when he was growing up, and his dad, like the introduction is so good. Talks about, I think my favorite part of the book, it stuck out to me, his dad made him and his brother build a wall in front of their dad's storefront. And all they could think about is like, can't wait to be finished with this wall. So their dad talked to them and he says, stop worrying about the wall. Just worry about putting 1 brick at a time. It's just like a different perspective of Will Smith that I can relate to my life.
So 1 practice at a time, 1 game at a time?
Sure, exactly. 1 game at a time, 1 practice at a time, whether the team is struggling, whether I'm struggling. That's something that I took away from that book, where maybe people, when they think of Will Smith, they might not think that. They might think of something else, and that's why I like reading these memoirs, because you learn so much about someone that, you know, you didn't expect to learn. Interesting. When was this written? 2012. So after the championship?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is definitely a candidate as well. Or a history of Tupac Shakur. I never heard of this book, but Tupac Shakur, very interesting person. Really smart. would say an intellectual himself, so. This one, also my favorite athlete ever, Kobe Bryant. Never heard of this book either. Similar, Kobe, he would always talk about, you know, reading, and, you know, the guy won an Emmy for storytelling, which made me like him even more, to be honest. Yeah, pretty crazy to even talk about the fact that Kobe Bryant passed away. So I would definitely be checking this book out, just to kind of, anything Kobe, I'm always interested in. Yeah. How are you? I would like to get my first library card in Toronto.
Yeah, so I need a piece of photo ID and something with your address on it.
Okay, that's good.
Awesome.
Sweet, nice. I'm official now.
Those are due July 7th.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to the library.
Thanks. All right. Got my books.
You got it.
They're giving me 3 weeks to read them, apparently.
So it's
So-
light work?
Light work. Light work for sure. Yeah, so I always put on my Instagram my next read, and I guess these are my next 3 books that I'm gonna read. Sweet.
So, there have been some conflicting answers on your name.
Yeah.
How do you properly pronounce your name for everyone else?
Yeah, so if you look at the spelling in my name, there's an accent on the E. And what people make a mistake, they pronounce it with the accent on the A, but the emphasis is on the E, so it's Aimé. Aimé. And that makes sense? Sort of like the E is the one that you Aimé. Yeah.
That is indeed Shane O'Neill down on one knee. And quickly to come in is Aimé Mabika, 24-year-old recently acquired from Inter Miami. Comes in for his Toronto FC debut.
In towards the back post, and it drops down. What a block from Mabika. Still there for Fragapane. Off the line from Mabika. Bunbury with the chip cross into the middle, looking for Mukhtar, the header back across goal. Cleared off the line by Mabika.
You won't see a better block in any league all over the world. Any match that you watch, that was sensational stuff from Aimé Mabika. Absolutely incredible.
And then my first year they came, but I was on the second team.
Where do they live again?
They live in Lexington,
Okay.
Kentucky, which is like an hour and a half from here.
Nice, so it's not that bad.
The 2 times I've came here, I never played. So.
Perfect. You must be excited.
Yeah, it should
I know it does.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when people ask me where I'm from, I was thinking about it last night, actually. Like, I've lived, including Canada now, I've lived in 3 different countries now, which I think is pretty cool. And then if you go back to my family, that's 4, because my parents are from Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. And then that's where my 2 older brothers are from. So then my parents moved to Zambia. My sister and I were born there. And then when I was 8, we moved to the United States, to Lexington, Kentucky. Grew up there, grew up 10 minutes from the university. And then, yeah, got drafted to Miami, and then now I'm here. So I think all of that put together sort of, I always go back to my parents, and I always say they're kind of my role models, and the fact that them moving to Zambia was a calculated move, because from there it was a bit easier to come to the United States. When I got drafted, when I made my debut, when I got traded here, you know, my parents just reminded me, like, this is why we did it. It wasn't for us, it was for you and your siblings to be able to have opportunities like this. So going back from here to Miami to Kentucky to Zambia, all the way to Congo, I think it all kind of ties together. What I've learned so far is it's not a linear graph, right? And when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's not improvements. How I look at it now is there's ups and there's downs, but if you take up the big picture and lean back, It's still going forward, and that's sort of what my career has looked like so far. But in between that, you know, there's maybe an injury, or you have a few bad games, or you're in the MLS Team of the Week. That's just kind of how it goes. So what I'm learning now is just not letting the highs get too high and the lows get too low. For me, it's just continuing to enjoy it.